issues, will you specifically tell us what you think needs to be done to fix the budget, and what are some very specific issues that you think need to be cut in order to fix the budget and bring it in line with a balanced budget? We'll start with you, Mr. Ron. Hey.
Man, that's a good one. How do I fix the budget? All right, everybody get a pen. I believe that we need to really properly define what the scope of government should be. I believe that we try to do, and I see it on the local level in the city council budget. We have about an $843 million city parish budget, and we try to do everything for everyone. And from the calls that come into my office, that my legislative aide here, Matt, can tell you, we're not doing much of it too well. We're not delivering. We're in the customer service business, and our customer service scores are not bright and shiny. It's true on the local level, it's true on the state level. We need to define what are we supposed to do. Public safety, infrastructure, education. We have to prioritize our money. As was alluded to tonight, we bring in $25 billion as a state. We have some revenue issues to address. We have some very generous credits and exemptions that exist in this state that absolutely need to be looked at. They need to be looked at on a yearly basis. If we're not getting a return on them, you got to go. But we have to define what we want to do. What are our priorities, and then fund them well. What are not priorities? Are just not going to be priorities.
Mr. Edwards.
Well, I've already mentioned a couple of things that I believe that are systemic problems with our budget. Let me mention a couple more. Refer back to, for one, the reduction in our bureaucracy in higher education. We currently have 5 management boards that deal with colleges and universities. Now that's 4 too many here in Baton Rouge, that we have 5 higher education institutions that are governed by 3 different boards. Now, if you think about the numbers, they're just out of balance. So one thing we need to do is just reform these and go into one under the Board of Regents. It will save, no one knows exactly how many, but we believe it will save millions of dollars a year. It is reform. Some would say it obviously can't be done, as everything else can't be done. But obviously we're going to have to bring some of these things about. When we take a look at structural change, it takes courage to do it. There is money in our budgets to do it, and I think we can do these. Now, we also have 385 to 450 dedicated statutory funds. It just depends on which one names them, which are, again, we're talking about a large sum of money. Can we get rid of all the dedicated funds? No, we can't get rid of all the dedicated funds. No one's recommending that we should get rid of all the dedicated funds. But we are in crisis mode, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to look at what we can resolve and bring it to fruition and put those dollars in our budget and get ourselves out of some of the mess that we're in. So it's going to take some courage to do this. It's not that these are some pet projects for some people. It's going to be irritating. We're going to have to build relationships and work together. But along with our entitlement spending, which I mentioned a few moments ago, which is a large sum of money, all of these things are just samples of what it takes. And what I mean by that is everything must be put on the table. Everything. We can't just protect one thing or another. Everything has to be evaluated, or we will never be able to dig our way out.
Let me give you 30 seconds to respond to Mr. Orso's question to you in relationship to your education proposal.
Yeah, again, as you're reforming, I mean, when you take a look at what our superintendents will more than likely do in some areas, is that we can see middle management reduction, which puts more teachers in classrooms. There's also private funding available. We have small businesses that are ready to jump on board right now. We're not considering what communities, churches, leaders, businesses would do to invest in a program like remediation. We have businesses lined up ready to give significant funds. So it's not just taxation that gets us out of the situation that we're in. We can't tax ourselves enough to pay for everything. It's impossible. And if that's the way we look at it, tax first and that's it, I think Daryl's right. We probably can't do much. But we're gonna investigate some real strong areas and we're gonna get this done.
Mr. Orso, you want to respond?
That's fine.
Mr. Hager?
I would, not to his comment or the question?
His comment.
Okay.
May I add something to that?
Yeah.
You know, just kind of bringing it to the forefront. You know, and both of these gentlemen have, you know, they're bringing up very good points on that. I will tell you, it costs us $60,000 a year to house a person in the parish prison. And it's a whole lot cheaper on the front end. You know, there's a whole lot of, you know, savings that can be realized if we can get folks out of the penal system and out of the recidivism of getting back in the penal system. If we can develop, you know, projects like, you know, programs like they're speaking of. You know, we have to catch the kids on the front end because if a child is 2.5 years behind by the 8th grade, you know, he's going to probably drop out of college. And he's going to drop out of college, he's not going to be able to take care of his family. And then he's going to, you know, the statistics show that they're going to end up in prison. And it's $60,000 a year currently at the housing lease parish.
Thank you. Mr. Orso?
I'm a self-employed small businessman. I own my own company. I service my clients. I also have a 30-year total history in investments and financial management. I've worked in banking for over 17 years, and since, again, 2002, working in the investment field. And I understand being a small business, the challenges. And I've also shared 10 years of my time serving the public. So I understand the challenges of doing both. It's very complex and very complicated when you're trying to find the solutions. Just this year, I voted against a $71 million cash grab, if you will, by the governor. They were looking at the insurance department budget and in the Louisiana Insurance Guarantee Fund, which is a fund that's designed to protect companies, protect the taxpayers if the companies go under. The governor said, hey, here's $71 million, we can help balance the budget. I voted against it in committee, and I went to the floor to vote against it. And Chairman Fannin said, sir, if we don't take this money, we're going to have an additional $71 million hole in our budget. And that is what the general administration has done continually and repeatedly for the past 7 years. They never spent the time to look at trying to find solutions. These solutions, some of them, yes, have to start from the top, from the governor, because the governor, who is the one who is constitutionally charged to establish the budget, the legislature has to take that once it's presented with it to find the ways to make it work. We are actually meeting right now. The House has met for a couple of times, and we will continue to have additional meetings throughout the remainder of this year to look at alternatives to finding cuts that we can make in the budget, and also look at revenue options. Because again, both of those have to be a part of it, just like it was with the budget this year. Over $600 million of cuts were made. We also provided additional revenues for colleges, universities. We provided additional $50 million for K-12 education, money that will go into the classrooms to help the teachers to teach the students the K-12. So there are many challenges, and you will hear a lot of sound bites, but until you actually sit down there and do the work, that's all you will hear, sound bites and not solutions.
Ms. Davis, you want to add anything to the conversation? Yeah, sure. In relationship to, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Sure. Regarding the budget, it's our biggest issue facing our state, our community. Again, it involves everything, economic development, transportation, healthcare, education, everything is involved. We have 3 specific things that we need to do. We need to look at the budget, and we need to prioritize and organize the budget. We can't keep going to these short-term fixes. We have to come up with long-term structural reforms for our budget. We have to look again at statutory and constitutionally dedicated funds. Some of those funds, as I mentioned before, we cannot touch, or we should not touch, such as the Transportation Trust Fund and the Budget Stabilization Fund. We need to make sure that those funds are being used wisely. And other statutorily dedicated funds and constitutionally dedicated funds need to be looked at to make sure that they are a priority. And if they're not, and it's going to be some hard decisions, and there are going to be some angry folks, but it's a time that we have to make hard decisions. All of us are up here because I think we're willing to make those hard decisions, but we're going to need leadership. We're going to need teamwork. We have to look at spending. Right now, we have what's called a revenue estimating conference, and each year the revenue estimating conference looks at, that's just it, revenues. We need something that's called an expenditure revenue conference. We have a spending problem in Louisiana. We need to look at expenditures and make sure that the revenues that we have coming in can pay for the expenditures that we have. It's just like in our daily lives when we set our budgets. I know my husband and I, every January and every July, sit down and we look at our budget. We can pay for X, Y, and Z. If we have a little bit of money left over, great, we can go on vacation. If not, it's too bad. We have to pay for eggs, milk, and bread. I say that all the time, eggs, milk, and bread. We have to look at what we're spending our money on and prioritize. We also have to look at streamlining government. I'm very familiar with this because I was Deputy Commissioner of Insurance over the Office of Property and Casualty, and every year we had to look at our budget. Now, we were a little different because we were self-generated revenues and that's what we relied on. But we have to look at, is there some parts of government that are overlapping? Are there some parts of government where we can maybe downsize? How do we maximize government services but lower our costs? We have to look at all of those things. Huge issues, huge problems. We need leadership. We need teamwork. And it's going to take a team. And Daryl knows because he's been there for a while. We have 144 legislators, 105 representatives, 39 senators. Everybody has their own piece of the pie that they're looking at. It's going to be some hard decisions, but we have to make those decisions, and we have to be willing to stand up and prioritize as a team.
Ms. Davis, a few of you guys have mentioned we need leadership. Of course, we're in a major governor's race in the state. Would each of you candidates be willing to tell us tonight who you'll be supporting for governor?
As I mentioned before, I don't know if I mentioned, District 69 is made up of about a third Republican, a third Democrat, and about a third independent or other. So District 69 needs somebody who can represent them across the board, regardless of race, gender, political affiliation. I am willing to work with either candidate that's elected.
Are you glad to tell us now who you'll be supporting to be the next leader?
No.
Okay, Mr. Hack.
I'm voting for David Benner.
Thank you, Mr. Edmonds.
It's impossible to support with the National Democratic Party and their platform. It is impossible to support a Democrat. I'll be voting for David Vitter.
Thank you, Mr. Orso.
I really don't know that's an issue in this district race. Certainly the voters are educated, and I will not say who I will vote for because I will work with whoever the governor is. We have two distinct candidates, and I think the people know how to make an informed choice in that race.
In terms of leadership, you mentioned leadership. Do you think one of these candidates is better suited for leadership in the state of Louisiana other than the other?
They both, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
They both have legislative leadership. They don't have the executive leadership that is we were looking for in a governor. So, in that situation, we were looking at two individuals who both have legislative leadership.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Edmonds, this question is for you. Last year in the legislative session, Representative Mike Johnson called for a bill, Marriage and Conscience bill, which was designed to protect employees of the state of Louisiana, as well as residents of the state of Louisiana from the police power of the state when those citizens, for religious purposes, objected to homosexual marriage. If elected, will you support this piece of legislation or a similar piece of legislation?
Pastor, I'm glad you asked that question. HB 707 was designed to be a bill that would do exactly what you just stated, to protect people in the religious belief and faith, knowing that even before the Supreme Court literally lost their mind in a 5-4 decision and basically abused the Constitution. Yes, I testified on behalf of that bill for Representative Johnson, who's an outstanding freshman legislator from Bossier Parish. And I believe that our religious freedom is being challenged on almost every front. The traditional family is being challenged. And it will be my heart and it would be my great joy to be able to assist all of our families in District 66 who have strong traditional family values and have always held to what our founding fathers prepared us for, which was religious freedom. We cannot give it up.
Thank you. Mr. Orso.
About 7 months ago, we were asked almost a similar question, but in reverse, because we were asked by the gay and lesbian community, and buddies here, I think, and the others who were attending that debate at what's the place downtown? Catfish Town, whatever it's called today, got called Catfish Town. That's old school, sorry. But they were wanting to know if we would amend, or if we would support a bill that would provide for their additional protection. And I gave the answer then, and I think the answer still stands today for the one that we're talking about, HB 707. Our Louisiana Constitution of 1974 already provides those protections in there. It says, no person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws. No law shall discriminate against a person because of race or religious ideas, beliefs, or affiliations. So we already have those protections, and I think we need to focus dearly on what our Constitution says. I don't like the definition of marriage that we have today. I think marriage should be between a man and a woman. It's unfortunate that our Supreme Court has interpreted things differently, but I think we already have the protections within our state constitution that has been in place since 1974.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
We are a nation founded on religious freedom, and I think that we need to protect that. I agree with Darrell that I think that the Louisiana Constitution already provides for those protections and offers those protections to our citizens. I don't think that there's any more we really need to do.
Mr. Hack.
HB 707 is the question, would I have supported HB 707? I would have supported HB 707, but I probably arrived there from a different perspective of Pastor Edmonds. I'm kind of the libertarian of the Metro Council. We had a similar issue that was proposed. It was the fairness ordinance. You guys may remember it. And to me, I looked at it from the business perspective. And when you're creating special classes, you're having an opportunity for businesses to get sued, and it's really the fairness ordinance was this is extra fair for lawyers is what it should have been called. So I would have supported 707. And what's interesting enough, I have some friends in the LGBTQ community that we were I saw them in Starbucks, and we were kind of just shooting the ball. And they said, look, we read 707, and this is just when 707 kind of got pushed out. We read 707, and they said, there's really nothing wrong in here for us. But our national organizations say we need to fight this, so we're going to. And I read 707. To me, I was okay with it, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
And last questions for the candidates. Louisiana,